Welcome to What the Frack.
We are your fractional team, and today we break down marketing trends, strategies, and tactics
in 30 minutes or less
so that you can do the fun stuff like be creative. Welcome everybody to What the Frack Live. Hello, Nicole.
Hi, Tamara. How are you today?
I am wonderful because today we are joined by Tim Berney, who is an expert marketer, and he's got a lot of tips to share with us. So Tim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So let me tell everybody just a little bit about you so that they know who's giving us all these incredible tips and tricks that we can use. So Tim is the founder of VIbranding and Branding, a digital and creative agency that he has led for over 3 decades. Under his strategic leadership, VI has grown from a one-man team to a full-service marketing firm with more than 70 employees. And I actually was looking you up, and I know that you've also won a bunch of awards for your work.
We have. We just won our 10th Best of Show at the American Advertising Federation Awards. So pretty excited about it.
That is very cool. I saw your team was very excited about it too. So thank you for joining us today. And I can't wait to dive in to some of our topics, which include why narrowing your approach to business growth works, which is basically saying you need a specialty in order to grow your business. Can you tell me more about why you think businesses need to narrow their approach versus widening it, which most people want to do?
Right. I agree. So first of all, we can't be good at everything. And I think that consumers today and certainly business leaders are looking for people that have specialties in what it is that they're looking for. So if we try to be an expert in everything, we're typically an expert in nothing. I think that goes for small business, and it goes for large businesses as well. In our industry, we don't have digital experts. We have SEO experts and paid search experts and social media buyers and social media planners, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because we want that deep expertise. It all has to be integrated, but we want deep expertise in every discipline that we offer, so we're the best at it.
Yeah,
I think the same is true for any organization.
And Tamara, I think, what's really interesting about that, Tim, is that I come from agency world. I own an agency, and I saw a lot of agencies hit a ceiling on how big they can grow, because for a while they wanted jack of all trades, right? They wanted to hire one person to do 10 things. And generally we see that when an agency is owned by someone who didn't come from the creative world, who doesn't understand that SEO is so different from web design and from social media. And it's the same business owners that say, I need marketing, right? Like, it's this big thing. Right. And so I assume that's how you were able to grow your business. I assume you have a lot of specialized employees there.
We do. And that's our philosophy. And I know other people have different philosophies, but even designing for the web is different than designing digital ads or billboards or whatever. And I think if you were trying to start an agency today and had a whole bunch, wanted all the disciplines that you needed, can you start an agency with 25 people from scratch? But you almost need to if you're really going to have that full offering, or otherwise you bring in the right partners, which is sort of where the industry has gone today.
Well, and so I feel like it's something that business owners hear a lot, which is like, you need to find your specialty. And I'm deviating a little bit from the teams, because I feel like, this is something that you can't say too much to business owners, which is, what are you good at and who are you talking to, right? And most of the time they just want to be broad because they're like, we want to cast a wide net. We want to scoop up as many people as we can. But it's so true that, like, when you're selling to, everyone, you're getting no one back. So how do you get business owners to see that this is the most viable way forward?
it's a lot easier today than it used to be, because we have so much data at our fingertips, and we can actually prove it. Like, these are the types of people that are responding to this message. So this is our most likely customer, and this is who we need to be targeting. Will we grow that customer base over time? Probably. But today we have data to prove, just typical digital KPIs for sure. But also, conversions and actual sales prove it out over and over.
I do love data.
And I was going to say, we love data here.
Yeah.
we love data, and we talk about data a lot. And I think there's two really interesting things you said there that most people, our audience is business owners, it's marketers, it's people who want to learn how to think like executives, right? Like, how do we think through these problems? And two things that you said that I thought were really interesting there for our audience is, one, they hear a lot about niching down and finding your audience and being very specific about it. But what I think people forget is that we need the data first, right? And so you do need to find that market research and do those tests to get the data so you can start to niche down. And I see very often a mistake is that they niche down first without listening to their clientele and the people out there. And so they make assumptions that are wrong. And then the second piece that I heard you say that I think is really important here is really then taking that data and really analyzing it into buyer personas and being smart about making decisions for that buyer persona. Because when we talk to everyone and we try to be everything, you just become wishy-washy. And I think that's authenticity is a huge piece. And I know that that's huge in branding, and you are, what I hear, is the branding expert. So can you go into a little bit about how branding plays into the growth role? Because I think business owners like to think that branding is an extra and not an importance.
Yeah, right on. So, your brand is your promise to the marketplace. And so when we go through branding exercises, we not only develop brand personality and imagery, but a brand positioning statement. And that positioning statement says, to this audience, this is what we are. And every decision that we make about our marketing and communications needs to support that branding statement. Mm-hmm. So if Disney's positioning statement, and it was at one point in time, as fun, family, entertainment, then everything that they do is going to be about fun, family, and entertainment. And if they want to get outside of that, then they're going to do it under a different brand, such as, Touchstone Films is their R-rated sort of wing, but it's not going to have R-rated films, not going to have a Disney on it because it's not family, right? So, so every decision that we make certainly supports our brand, but that's how we counsel our clients. Is you are basically saying that this is who we are, and this is where we're going, and you're going to, everything that you do is going to support your brand. And being everything to everybody is not supporting your brand. That is basically soup. So there's sort of an intersection in what we have to offer, we meaning any company, and what the consumer wants from us, and then what brand position is not already taken. And where those three things intersect is, to us, the sweet spot. Where someone needs to go to market.
Tamara, I don't know if I've ever heard someone talk about branding by what brand position hasn't been taken, but that feels very genius to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, right? That's like finding your competitive niche. That's being able to differentiate yourself, out in crowded marketplaces, right? Because I've actually been looking at this a lot. And so why you bring this up, it was making me think is, not every business idea is a brand new novel idea, right? Most, if not almost all business ideas are a take on something that's out there, especially if we're talking about small businesses on like Main Street, right? So how do you see what your competition is and then find that one sweet spot? Is there an exercise that you use with your small businesses or something that stands out that that like really helps them narrow in on that?
Yeah. So we do, competitive analysis is definitely part of our branding process. The hardest part of that is to try to figure out what somebody's brand position is. You know, you go through their website and you try to get your hands on their collateral materials and their presentations and proposals and everything else. But you do have to make some assumptions that this company is going to market in this manner. I think if you're in a particular industry, you have a pretty good handle on what your competitors' brand position are, but we're often not. And so we do rely on our clients to some extent. Like, so what are they good at? You know, you go through sort of that SWOT with your competitors as well as with your own organization. And you do have to make some assumptions, but just sort of to reiterate that point is that it's a lot easier to own a brand position that nobody else owns than it is to knock somebody else off of their perch. It takes a lot of money and a lot of time and you know, so that's part of that strategy is owning something that somebody else doesn't already own in the consumer's mind.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, I think we've talked about this before, but for me, what I always find when I go into a company and they're telling me that their messaging isn't hitting with customers correctly, or customers are coming in or leads are coming in and they are not understanding already what their competitive advantages and things like that. When I start to audit their website and audit all their marketing material, it becomes really clear a lot of the times that their messaging is a little bit surface level, right? It's not authentic. It's very like even keel for everything. And then when you start talking to the company, you start realizing that there's a little bit of like, not misunderstanding, but like misalignment among the executive team, among the employees as to like where do we really want to go to? And so I think that a branding exercise, we think of that a lot of times, business owners think of it as like a PDF with their logo and their colors and that's it. But what it really does is it allows us to identify and work out that vision as to where the company is, what's authenticity for us. And authenticity is we're seeing it more and more as we come back to that human-centric marketing is going to rule marketing in the next 5 years anyway. And customers relate to it, or at least that's what I see. Tim, are you seeing that same piece? Am I making any bad statements here?
No, for sure. Actually, two things about that. One is when we go through a branding exercise with a client, we say, whoever can derail this process needs to be in the room. So if it's just the marketing team or whatever, but then the CEO can go, you know, that was a waste of time or whatever, because they haven't bought in along the way and been a part of the process. We won't do it. So we have to have leaders involved because they do have vision about the brand. We actually start the branding process with internal culture because it influences your deliverable one way or another. You know, you can't go to market as the friendly company when you're not very friendly, just to be sort of surface about it. So we feel like our job is like there's a brand that exists. There's a framework that is already exists within a company culture and within how they operate and what they do. Our job is to find it and then piece it together in a manner that is attractive to the consumer. We're not making a whole lot of stuff up. You know, like what's the consumer want? Okay, well, let's go be that. Well, you probably can't just go be that.
Mm-hmm. I want to touch on too, so kind of piggybacking off of what both of you just said, which is creating the authentic brand. And something that I've been looking at a lot and discussing with other agencies is how AI is really like just bringing down brand authenticity. And that so many brands are seeing these AI apps as just like, oh my gosh, they're magic and they're helping me with branding and they're helping me with, all these different, tools that are supposed to be quote unquote creative, but AI can only search from what's out there. So you're not getting something that's new and innovative and fresh and authentic. Like you're getting kind of just this very, the same similar branding across the board for all these brands that are going out there and using these tools.
Right. So we're using those tools for some shortcuts for sure, more for productivity and efficiency than we are to actually have it do our work for us. And certainly with the branding process, the tools can search the internet and find the same thing that you and I can find and very quickly make some assumptions about it and put it in a summary. When we're talking about branding, I just had to take that with a grain of salt and, okay, that's good, quick data that we came with, but we would have to verify everything that any AI tool could pull up when we're talking specifically about branding. We talked about the competitive analysis a little while ago. I think that AI is beneficial in that, but you still got to double check yourself.
Yeah. Tamara, I think AI is all over the news, right? And everyone wants to hear about it. And some people, I just wrote a LinkedIn post about this and was on our page on LinkedIn. So shameless plug, if you haven't followed our LinkedIn, go subscribe. We're all marketers here, right? But one of the things, clearly what I'm seeing is that marketers, business owners, they're either really curious about AI and want to use it in everything, or they're really scared about it. And I think what the problem that we're seeing, especially in our industry, is that there's not an education around what AI is, what it can actually do. And for me, my personal opinion on it, and obviously this is allowed to change as AI changes, because it will, is this idea that right now, AI is not a creative piece of work, right? Like it pulls information from the internet. It does machine learning. We still have to prime the jets, so to speak, right? Yeah. And so the creative process, which branding is a very big piece of, cannot be done by AI, and I will stand by that. But if you have a foundation, a really strong foundation, like a really good branding guide with the purpose-driven mission, with the voice, with all of those pieces, you can essentially feed that into AI and use it to help with that productivity, that efficiency part. And I think that what's great about this conversation is that our job is to teach people how to think like a fractional executive or like an executive. And the biggest piece to thinking like an executive is being able to see things from all directions, like be devil's advocate, for lack of a better term. And I think we've talked about AI in another episode, all about how to use it. And I think in this part, we're talking about when to restrain from it. And I think that's a big piece to this conversation. Maybe someone feels differently, but that's how I feel in this space right now.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nicole. And I simply break it down to productivity tools, and the better the input, the better the output, right? So all the documents that you were saying that that you feed, I think the better the output is going to be. But marketing is pretty subjective, I guess, sort of discipline, and I can AI operate in a subjective manner and make decisions that you and I can, because we have decades of marketing experience? Not yet. Be great if it can someday, I guess. But
yeah, you were so right. Marketing and communication is so subjective. It's tricky that way. I'm curious though, and I ask everybody when there's an opportunity, what is the AI tool you can't live without right now?
Honestly, just Chat GPT.
Yeah.
And I just this morning I downloaded the latest version of Grok, but I haven't played with it at all. But I'm going to.
Yeah.
But still pretty much Chat GPT. We have, designers, copywriters, et cetera, that are using different tools. But from the chair I sit in, I don't need to.
Yeah, no. I guess my question is, as the agency model changes over the next few years, and at the end of the day, AI is here, branding's here to stay, all of these pieces, and as we see marketing move back into a very human-centric space, we keep talking about this on our episodes because we saw a shift to a very digital, very automated space for the last few years, and I think that we're seeing a shift back. Both in marketing, but in technology, in SaaS, in all of these spaces, we're seeing it back to that human-centric spot. As we go from going more human-centric and bringing in something like AI, which is so beyond not human-centric, in what you do, where we're speaking to humans, where do you see agencies going? And if they are incorporating things like AI, how do you mitigate the chances of like misinformation or pieces like that? Do you have like a QA cycle or something?
We do actually have a couple steps of QA in everything that we produce. Are you talking about the 53% of all cheese consumed is Gouda cheese or whatever that made it past Google?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of misinformation on there. I've seen some really bad, like, creative stuff come out of AI.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was whomever it was, the first brand that used an iPhone to film the whole commercial and all that, and now people are want to I guess generate publicity for for being the first people to do a totally AI driven campaign or whatever it is. To me, that's novelty. I still think that, obviously we all use search engines. We have been forever. And sort of at its core, AI is a really, really fast search engine that can piece things together for us. And I think that's great. And I think if that tool is there, we ought to use it and take advantage of it. But then just realize it is what it is. And I don't really think, you've probably used AI tools to say, what would your marketing strategy be for yada, yada. It comes back and, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's
terrible.
It's okay. It's sort of marketing 101. Okay. But our clients aren't paying us for marketing 101. They're paying us for what's going to produce an ROI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same. Tamara, if you put it in there, I do that before interviews. If I'm going to interview a team member, I put in ChatGPT some of the questions and then I wait to see if that person gives me the same response.
Oh, is that the new internet stalking?
Smart.
Is using AI for?
Well, because when hiring,
social media stalking,
I would ask for proposal, or I would ask for like some sort of work just to see, like here's the problem, send me back something that you've solved, right? And I can't tell you how many times, just sloppy, straight up copy and paste from ChatGPT that you're like, this was very clearly, you just put my question in there. But I wanted to ask you, because, you've talked about the agency model evolving and this new landscape that we're in now, where there's more fractional executives that are overseeing, and the fractional executives are more the generalist, right? Bringing together a lot of different partners and agencies to execute a vision, most of which are remote now, right? Or in different locations. So how do you see agency owners and executives navigating this new landscape of how you work together to execute campaigns?
So you have to say, okay, we're going to cooperate, which is against, sort of agency DNA. You never wanted to invite the fox into the hen house. Your agency a record, and if you need a vendor, then that vendor is going to sign a DNA, and they're going to be invisible and all that. There's so many disciplines today, and I think the larger brands started bringing in some of those disciplines independent of their agency because somebody had, sort of a better mousetrap, if you will. We're doing this AI driven social media tool thing, yada, yada, yada. Okay, that sounds cool. Let's bring you in. So it's been forced upon us, and I think rightfully so to a great extent, because again, I mean, how many marketing disciplines are there today that an agency theoretically could offer their clients? So we have to cooperate in that regard, because it's going to happen, and you can either be the person that derails the project or that really helps the CMO or the VP marketing actually pull it off. One of the challenges that I think almost an elephant in the room is that there's a whole lot of people that are in charge of marketing, whatever their title is, that aren't able to deal with all of these different vendors and come up with an integrated campaign. And so the most strategic agencies sort of are helping fulfill that role too, even though they're not asked to. Because frankly, if that's your value, then you're going to get more and more of that work. So it's, I guess, selfish on our part. But you just have to have this idea of cooperation and working with other agencies today.
And I think, one thing I could see that would like derail that with these, independent agencies coming together is someone wanting to get the credit, right? Like who gets the credit for the success? So how do you, as an agency owner, ensure that what your work is seen and given the value that it deserves, while like having this spirit of cooperation? Like how do you ensure that? Because I think that would be the major concern.
So in most instances, we're the lead agency in this regard. And so we force strategy, whether the CMO sort of has us in that role or not. So strategically, what are we trying to achieve? And we try to take that leadership role. There are a few instances where we're almost white labeled, or we're just the SEO vendor on something or whatever. And we sort of take our place in that regard. But you always have the opportunity to report on your work, right? I mean, it's just part of what the agency model is today for us. So we always report on, this is what we did, and this is what happened, and this is what we saw, and the optimizations that we made. And our recommendation is for whoever's doing the creative to do more of this messaging, whatever it is. So we try to take that lead marketing role, or at least be smart enough in what it is that we're doing to where that credit is given to us. If we ever become just a commodity, then we're in the wrong business. Us.
I mean, I think that it's a really interesting concept that we're talking about. And I love to hear you talking about working collaboratively. And that's where the agency model is going, because like you said, there's a lot of agencies out there that want to own everything. But when you try to own everything, just like when you try to be everything, it's really hard in the marketing world. There's too many things that need to be specialized. We've always worked with like specialized creative agencies to bring in, because we can't have someone on staff who does this random thing that our clients only want once a year, right? And know everything about it. And then also from the fractional side, the reason that I started to go into some of the fractional pieces was because I, as an agency owner, felt like clients, especially like small businesses who couldn't afford everything at an agency level, could get more out of what I was doing if they had someone internally who was driving the ship or had more specialties in a certain area. And I know, Tamara, you said fractionals are the generalists because you're talking about them understanding how it works into the strategy, how every piece works into the strategy. But really what's happening with a small business, and I like to break this down, like I know we're kind of repeating things, but for our audience out there who are small businesses, the way you think about an agency and a fractional is not one or the other. They're not mutually exclusive, right? The way that you think about it is we need someone who is, you know, a CFO, a CMO, they're specialized in their area. They understand the strategy level. And then we need people who are really good at executing and understand every piece of what it takes to execute this vision. And that is how that comes together. And there are lots of pieces and different types of marketers that can work together to make that vision happen. And I love that I'm hearing you say that you guys feel that collaboration is the way to go, because that's not always the case in this space.
There's very few agency of record opportunities in the marketplace today. And even if they are available, it doesn't mean what it once meant. People have a lot of disciplines in-house that should maybe be part of the AOR model or whatever, but they're not. We want our own social media people. We want our own, we definitely need to have an in-house designer or whatever. It's just our world, and you got to embrace it, or you know you're going to minimize your opportunities.
Things are moving fast. Tim,
Yeah.
It was so great to have you on the show. How can people follow your work, get in touch with your agency?
Okay. So on LinkedIn, we're on VIbranding and branding. I'm on LinkedIn too. Tim Berney, it's BERNEY, and our website is VImarketingandbranding.com. So, you know, every now and then we put out some stuff that might inspire you or give you a tip. Our website has a sign up to our newsletter.
We'll have to check out too some of the work that you did that got the award. So you'll have to post that in the comments so that people can see it.
Okay.
And with that, we are What the Frack. This is What the Frack Live. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on LinkedIn. Sign up for our newsletter. We have that coming out. And, you know, follow us wherever you're following your social media and want some inspiration. We are there. So very good to see everybody this week. We will see you next week.
You guys are awesome. Thanks.
Bye.